Rome expanded for a reason that had nothing to do with restlessness. A civilization that stops testing the edge of its own reach starts losing the capacity to defend what's already inside it. The legions crossed the Rhine and the Danube not for glory alone, but because the alternative to pushing the frontier outward is eventually having the frontier pushed back in on you. Augustus understood this well enough to leave instructions warning his successors against expanding the empire recklessly. But even he spent decades securing borders rather than simply defending a fixed line and hoping it held. Trajan's column still stands in Rome, 125 feet of carved marble spiraling upward, completed in the year 113, to commemorate a campaign that pushed the empire's border across the Danube into Dacia. It wasn't built to celebrate comfort. It was built to mark the moment a civilization decided the map wasn't finished yet. The redundancy instinct ran just as deep. Rome fed roughly 1 million people off grain shipped from Egypt, Sicily, and North Africa at once, on purpose, coordinated through a dedicated grain office because the food supply was treated as a matter of state survival, not commerce. A bad harvest or a hostile fleet in any single province couldn't starve the capital because no single province ever held that much leverage over Rome's dinner table. One source of grain was a vulnerability. 3 sources, spread across the Mediterranean, was survival. The principle wasn't really about wheat. It was about never letting the whole civilization depend on a single point of failure, a lesson written into Roman logistics centuries before anyone had a word for supply chain resilience. That same instinct is the honest case for a multiplanetary species now, and it has nothing to do with escapism. Earth is currently civilization's only granary. Every asset, every archive, every person, sitting on one rock in the same orbit around the same star. SpaceX landing a reusable booster back on its own launch pad, catching it with mechanical arms instead of throwing it away after a single flight, is the same engineering impulse that built the Aqua Claudia, 45 miles of aqueduct carrying water into Rome across arches that still stand 2,000 years later. Different material, same standard. Build something precise enough to be trusted, and build it to outlast the men who built it. A colony on Mars is not a luxury for dreamers chasing a sci-fi fantasy. It's Rome's grain fleet, rebuilt for a species instead of a city, insurance against the one scenario no single planet can insure itself against alone. The Greeks called the order underneath all of this the logos, the conviction that the universe runs on a structure a man can actually discover and act on, not one he has to invent from nothing. Rome took that conviction and forced it into stone, law, and infrastructure, one campaign and one carefully placed block at a time. Nothing about it happened in a single brilliant year. It was the accumulated weight of men who treated the next century as more real than their own comfortable decade. The virtues required haven't moved an inch. Discipline over comfort. Time horizons measured in generations, not quarters. The willingness to accept deliberate hardship so something larger than any one man's lifetime can hold. The men who engineered water to run uphill through Roman arches are the direct ancestors of the men now trying to land the first supply craft intact on another planet. Same standard, applied to a further frontier. Build as if the work has to outlast you, because it does. Rome didn't fall to an army it couldn't defeat. It fell once it stopped looking outward and started consuming what previous generations had already built, mistaking maintenance for progress and stability for destiny. The West faces a smaller version of the same fork now. Stay earthbound long enough and softness sets in by default, the way it always does when a civilization decides the current map is the final one. Or treat the solar system the way Trajan treated the Danube frontier 2,000 years ago, as the next line worth pushing past, not because comfort demands it, but because the alternative is quietly deciding this is as far as the species gets.